Today, on our episode, we discuss Mistborn, the Final Empire, chapters 18 and 19.
Yes.
Vin is returning to the balls, re-immersing herself in the nobility. Kelsier is lurking around Luthadel, doing all sorts of shady but pretty awesome things. We discuss what happened, and we try and figure out where this thing is going, so please, don't go anywhere. Hello and welcome to the Doctors Who Read Stuff. My name is Chris.
I'm Chip.
My name is Brian.
And, as we said earlier, this is Mistborn, the Final Empire. We are talking about chapters 18 and 19. It was a good read.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoyed it.
Should we do a quick summary of 18 and
Please.
19? So chapter 18, Vin attends a party at Keep Alariel. She sits at her table, and Elend sits down next to her, uninvited, before a meal arrives, dropping a large stack of books on the table. Vin accepts a few dancing invitations from some young nobles. After much dancing, Vin is required to meet with Shan Alariel. During the conversation, Vin realizes that Shan is a soother. She notices Shan's terraceman poking through Elend's books that he left unattended at her old table, so she excuses herself to kind of interrupt him and stop him from poking through books and seeing something that maybe Elend doesn't want him to see. Elend then returns, gathers up the books, leaves, and is met on the way out with two friends who Vin is a little suspicious about. Sazed recognizes one of them, and they're from two kind of rival houses. So anyway, that's kind of the... Oh, I guess the chapter ends with Vin waiting for her carriage, and she sees a soldier casually just slit the throat of a young Scot kitchen boy who begged for money from one of the nobles that attended the party. Chapter 19, as Chris said in the opening, Kelsier goes about some kind of shady business in Luthadel. He drops a body in a garden of House Tikiel. Afterward, he meets up with Hoyd, who is he's a street informant. And Kelsier is kind of masquerading as a noble. Then he switches it up and masquerades as his own Scot informant and meets with Lord Venture and kind of spreads some rumors, catches some rumors about himself and spreads some others about Mansion Reno and some other stuff. So anyway,
There's a
that's
lot
kind of
of
the summary of what
underhanded
happened.
dealings, underhanded
Shadiness.
shady,
Yeah.
So,
I liked it, but what I thought, just kicking off chapter 18 with Vin kind of returning to the balls and getting back
and she was excited to go back.
Right.
She was.
That was what I find interesting is the more this goes on, she's like, this is like slowly becoming her, like, is it Valette? Is that the name of her?
Yeah.
Valet. I'm going to go with Valette.
Valette with a double
Yeah.
T, I think.
She makes the comment that they're not, like, she's becoming more Valette instead of...
Right.
Yeah, and she
Yeah.
kind of makes that comment too, where she's, easily, she can hide as Valette, but she's also becoming Valette
Right.
in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I thought it was interesting just reading some of the annotations that Sanderson put on his website. He said he really tries to use the different events at the houses, these balls, to kind of show the different characterization of the great houses, to kind of give them a sense of kind of where they rank and what kind of opulence they might have. And I thought that was kind of interesting because the way he describes this is very different from the ball we saw at the Venture House.
Yeah, because Venture had this huge, almost like ballroom, and this is more of a...
Yeah, I can't remember this, but the lighting was
like
different.
An event
there was like a dance place in the middle with chairs around.
Yep.
Yeah. So that was kind of an interesting detail. I hadn't picked up on that as something noteworthy, but it makes sense now that you say it.
I thought it was just kind of an interesting note. He also talked about Elend originally, in his original text, didn't have as large of a role, but as he kind of worked through different drafts, then his role became larger, and I still think he's an incredibly interesting character. I definitely want to know more about him. Just the way they introduced him, he's just kind of got a brash attitude. He doesn't strike me as wanting to really live this noble lifestyle, but I can't tell if that's just an act that he's putting on to, offend his father, or if he really feels that way. So.
Yeah, and so, like, when we do episodes, I'll go out onto Google and I'll try and find like artwork for our YouTube thumbnails and things like that. There is like Vin and Elend fan art everywhere out there.
Vin and Elend. Oh.
Yeah. So, like, I mean, it's not like NC-17 or anything, but I mean, like.
But it's more of a spoilerish thing that
Right.
he's got a bigger role to play.
Right.
And I kind of assumed that he had some bigger role to play, but
you can
with the last name of Venture, and Venture's appeared multiple
and it's
times.
the big
right
house,
here.
and then we actually see Lord Venture for the first time in the next chapter.
In 19,
here.
yeah.
Another thing that I read that Sanderson wanted to say was talking about Shan, and is she just a total bitch or
Pretty
what?
much.
Basically.
Yeah. But he said she was kind of a late addition as he kind of wrote through different drafts of this, but he really wanted to add a character that gave another layer of political intrigue that was going on. So you've got kind of the rebellion and all these activities going on, but this just kind of starts to lay that groundwork of the politics between the houses. And,
you almost wonder if she was the fiance of Elend before.
Yeah.
You almost wonder if that was a political venture.
I see what you did there.
Trying to get the two houses together.
Yeah.
It's interesting how, and he does a great job of promoting like the different class systems. You have your upper of the uppers, then you kind of have the middle uppers, lower uppers, and then you have the Scot down below.
Yeah.
He does a really good job of separating all of the classes and making it pretty apparent that this is like a class-based book.
Yeah.
Well, and another really cool thing that he's doing is there's a couple instances where Vin, like, Elend leaves and Vin, like, looks at his books.
Yeah.
Right? And it's another way of just kind of, like, exposition without exposition.
Yeah, I thought that was very clever, how it kind of gave you this sense of what the world used to be.
Right.
That there are differing opinions on the Lord Ruler, even among the nobility.
Yeah.
And that this writer
But
apparently written
this
some
is
things
interesting.
that-
It's called The Rise of the Scot Plantations. Because, we open this book on a plantation, right?
Yeah.
And it says, so far, the plantation system has produced a far more stable government than previous methodologies. The structure of dominances with each provincial lord taking command of and responsibility for his ska has fostered a competitive environment where discipline is harshly enforced. The Lord Ruler apparently finds this system troubling because of the freedom it allows the aristocracy. However, the relative lack of organized rebellion is undoubtedly enticing. During the 200 years that the system has been in place, there hasn't been a single major uprising in the 5 inner dominances.
I highlighted that same
man.
passage
Yeah.
in my book. So.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of foreshadowing there, and maybe we should speculate at some point, but this really got me thinking as to where this book is going.
Yeah, so, during the 200 years that system's been in place, there's been, no major uprising.
Right.
So, like you said, there's just a lot of stuff that's seeds being planted for for future things to happen.
Yeah. But, I mean, I think Sanderson's doing a great job of, like I said, exposition without it seeming like exposition. And this was a great example of, like, filling in some of the political backstory and historical context, right? Yeah. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah. I thought a few other things that happened in here too with Vin is really trying to play the role of Valette at the ball and wants, I don't know if she wants the other nobleman or the young nobleman to come and dance, ask her to dance, but she knows with Elend sitting there that they're intimidated.
That he's going to scare him off.
Right.
Yeah.
And so when she kind of passes him off as, well, there's some history between House Renault and House Venture, and
he's
really
showing me
just,
the ropes.
he's kind of like a big brother showing me the ropes here. It's interesting then in the following chapter how quickly that story spreads, and where Lord Venture turns it around, or one of I can't remember.
It was the Scot.
It was Hoyd, the
Yeah.
Scot informant that said that there's this thing about Lord Elend Venture is basically escorting Valette to these things. So I thought that was kind of a funny way to, she's quickly thinking on her feet, but she has no idea what the threads that she's really putting in place
downstream
there are.
impacts and ramifications. Yeah, that I picked up on that too, and that was really well done. One thing you touched on in the summary was, Vin was talking to Shan. Shan's terraceman was leafing through Elend's books.
Mm-hmm.
And Vin goes back to the table, like in a hurry. Like, she's, like, rude to Shan.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, sorry.
Just cuts her off.
I gotta go. But as the terraceman wanders off, Vin starts going through and finds a book, and the one that she finds is pretty interesting.
Yeah, and it's not the one that's in the cover that, it's kind of like, you're hiding a dirty magazine inside of a Sports Illustrated or something when you're a kid. So he's definitely hiding it there, but he's got to know that book was on the table, so did he possibly leave it there for somebody else?
Well, he had brought up...
Was he hoping that Vin would find it?
For context, there's a little bit I'm going to read again. And this is from the book, and again, exposition without making it seem like expedition. When regarding the final empire in its entirety, one certain fact is unmistakable. For a nation ruled by self-proclaimed divinity, the empire has experienced a frightening number of colossal leadership errors. Most of these have been successfully covered up and can only be found in the metal mines. However, only one need look to the near past to note such blunders as the massacre at Devonex, the revision of the Deepness Doctrine, and the relocation of the Reynats peoples. Then, I've been, jotting down notes about the Lord Ruler as we come across things. The Lord Ruler does not age. This much is at least undeniable. The text, however, purports to prove that he is by no means infallible. During the days before the Ascension, mankind suffered chaos and uncertainty caused by an endless cycle of kings, emperors, and other monarchs. One would think that now, with a single immortal governor, society would finally have the opportunity to find stability and enlightenment. It is the remarkable lack of either attribute in the final empire that is the Lord Ruler's most grievous oversight. So, interesting that the heir to House Venture is carrying around what we find out to be basically a banned book.
Right.
And then we find out that, the Lord Ruler is immortal.
I think it's interesting, too, the role books actually play in the whole story, too.
It's really awesome.
Elend's got his books, then they've got the log book that Vin took from Credit Shaw that Sazed's translating.
Yeah.
So, the whole, the written word and these histories and the fact that the keepers keep these histories of all this knowledge and stuff that...
it seems much more tangible, like a real society. Society would definitely keep track of those things. So it just, again, adds to the depth of the story.
Yeah, it creates a real world.
I'm a sucker for good world building, and this is good world building.
Yes, absolutely.
There's a lot going on.
Yeah.
But, go ahead.
Oh, I was just looking to see if I had some notes here.
But the thing that really struck me with this chapter was so upbeat as far as, it did leave some mystery, but it ends on such a down note.
Yeah, and I had a note on that, too, that Sanderson said that he added the throat-cutting scene more just to kind of reinforce that, to juxtapose it against the ballroom scene and all this nobility stuff going on, that it's still pretty brutal.
Boy, and the thing, the fact that the nobility didn't really seem to notice when it happened,
they just kind of overlooked it.
I liked the real dichotomy, the disconnect between the upper class and everyone else, and the fictitious world they're living in. Just a great, again, a good example of world building.
Is this the chapter where, when she's talking to Elend a little bit, they're talking about the Scot and the plantation that she came from, and where
I think it is this.
Chapter. Because Elend asks her, he says, "So, tell me about the plantation Scot. What are they like?" And she says, "Well, like Scot everywhere else. Are they intelligent? Well, some are, but not like you and me, right?" And then Vin's trying to think of how to respond. She's, going back to her Vin persona, thinking, how would a noble woman respond to that question?
Right.
Because she wants to say, yes, we're just as intelligent as you are, but I can't say that.
Right.
So then she says, no, of course not. And then Elend seems disappointed and says, or what she says, why are you so interested in them? And he says, no reason. So he's planting another seed there that he does have some sympathy or something that he's got some not feelings maybe, but that maybe it's just some sympathy for the Scot life, and maybe that this isn't the way we should live. Right. I don't know.
Right. So in chapter 19, it's kind of a stark shift from 18.
Yeah, and it's a very Kelsier focused.
It is,
Sure.
yeah, because
chapter.
we go from the opulent ballroom to like
Him carrying a dead body around.
the city streets of Luthadel at night.
And he's
he's
got a dead body that he's planting at House TTL.
and he's in disguise, and he's meeting an informant, and
I can't remember he's planting the body at that house to
almost
frame
undermine
some.
almost to frame a different house to undermine existing
But he's
relations.
really trying to stir this kind of house war between all the great houses.
so basically, the body he dumps is an ally of the house that he dumps the body at.
Yeah.
The person he killed tended to enjoy sick pleasures, like ska blood fights and things like that. And so he's using the corpse to raise suspicions between the houses. There was something in here that kind of caught my eye, though. Kelsier was talking about the mists as he was like hanging out, and he said they were indifferent save for the bit closest to his body, which curled in the normal allomantic current around his limbs.
Yeah, and I had a note in here that the mists react to allomancers, so they aren't really a natural or neutral occurrence in the story.
So I picked that one out. I was like, oh, interesting. The mists are acting different around him, and he's used to it.
Yeah. Another thing I noted on this one is the epigraph for this chapter, again, has another mention of the terrace men and terrace philosophers and the great hero of Terrace. So, once again, I think we've talked about that before, where the Lord Ruler apparently has this fear or hatred of the Terrace men and basically wiped them out at some point, made them eunuchs, So, again, I just thought that was kind of interesting to note that there's another mention of Terrace men in that epigraph.
Yeah. But it's cool because like he's busy in this chapter.
Yeah,
very busy.
Like, so he goes from dumping this body in a disguise. He's got like the beard and the whole thing going on.
And he cleans up.
He
a bit
cleans himself up a bit and goes and meets a Scot informant.
And he's pretending to be a nobleman at that point.
Right. And he makes a point to hide his hands.
Yes. Because
of the mists.
Well, because of the scars.
The scars too. Yeah.
And the fact that I think that part of what he finds out later in this very chapter is that the survivor of Hathsin is very present, and there's a lot of stories about him being active in Luthadel. So I think he's realizing that he needs to scale some things back. But but even before that, he must have instinctually known that I need to kind of keep some of myself hidden here.
But I mean, it's pretty interesting because he plays the part of the noble and he does it well and he gets what he needs, and I think he even like he feeds some things to his informant that like get him excited, right? I don't know if I took notes on that.
Well, the first conversation with Hoyd, who is his informant, he's talking about the connection between House Renault and House Venture, and that because this is where Hoyd says something about Lord Renault was able to demand that Elend Venture be assigned to watch over Lady Valette at the balls. It's even whispered that Lord Renault has some kind of leverage over House Venture. And then Kelsier is like, what the hell happened at the ball tonight?
Right.
And that was just, it's, he's hearing about that the same night that Ben kind of started putting these threads out there.
And then at one point, Kelsier references in his internal monologue his other plan. And he says he doesn't speak of it and he barely considers it. So what's his other plan? And then lastly, when he gets back to Lord Renault's estate, mansion, whatever we're going to call it, Lord Renault is referred to as a Kandra. Kandra, Kandra.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that means.
I don't know, because there's a lot of mystery around Lord Renault. So, I do want to know more about that.
And they do end the chapter with Kelsier learning that Vin is in love with Elend.
Yeah.
Or at least in the process of being in love.
Right.
That she's very much enraptured with him and, is really, siding with him because...
Oh, that's not...
And that's kind of an interesting way, that they're characterized where they show Vin with these feelings for the noble class. The more time she spends with them, the more... I think there's a quote
She
in
feels
here,
sorry
something
for
about
her.
where she sees the beauty in the nobility,
That's
but
what
she
it
also
is, yeah.
sees the, the ruthlessness too.
Right.
But where Kelsier just sees hatred,
Mhm.
just it's black and white
Mhm.
for him. Where there's some pretty gray areas for
Right.
for Vin.
Yeah. Well, that is chapters 18 and 19.
Mm-hmm.
Not a lot of like major happenings, but
Mhm.
it's more laying the groundwork. It's showing some of the underpinnings of how this heist is going to work. I think as chapters go, these two were very intriguing for not a lot actually happening.
No, but there's a lot of exposition and background and
There
some
was.
things that were
Yeah.
revealed.
And that's the stuff I like.
Yeah.
So let's go back to like Lord of the Rings, Fellowship. And I'm going to speak to the movies because far and away more people have seen the movies, I think, than have read the books anymore.
I would imagine.
But Fellowship is by far my favorite movie because of the world building and everything that they do to establish where all this is happening. So
Yeah.
this is the stuff I like. I'm excited about world building. I think Tolkien maybe called it secondary creation, and I love it. So
Cool.
I like this stuff. I hope it continues.
And I'm intrigued to see where it goes from here.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so we will be back next week covering chapters 20 and 21. Please find us on social media. We are at TDW Podcast. That's on Instagram and Twitter. We are also at facebook.com/TDW Podcast. And if you like what you just listened to and what you've just seen, we have a subscribe button, we have a like button, and we have a little bell that will let you know when we post new things. We would love it if you clicked all three of them. And then lastly, comments are awesome. We love comments. We love engaging with you. If we're way off the boat, wait, is that a thing? Way
Well,
off the boat?
for you,
It is
yeah.
now.
Okay. If
Man.
we're way off the boat, you just let us know.
Yeah.
No. If we're mispronouncing things, or if we are
If we just
misunderstanding, or we
completely-
just miss something completely, please let's have that dialogue. Let's have that conversation. We would love to know about it.
Absolutely.
And until next time, thank you very much, and have a great week.
Allons-y.